With the second half of Fontaine's first patch, we're getting reruns of two of some of the oldest characters in Genshin Impact, Wet Chirin and Grandpa Granite. If you're an old player, you probably already have them. If not, you probably skip them every single time. If that's the case, based. If you're a new player wondering if they're a good pull for your account, this is the video for you. My name is Gio, that one guy who's still obsessed with Yoimiya, but fortunately knows enough about these two characters to talk shit about them, analyze them, and help you decide whether you should pull for them. Disclaimer, this isn't a video meant to discourage you from pulling for characters you like. If you want to go for someone, I just want to let you know what you're getting yourself into and what problems you might face so you can prepare for them. If you want to pull for Zhongli and or Tartaglia because you like them, by all means go ahead. I don't even blame you, because these two are the first Genshin men who made me question my straightness. So I'll talk about each character's base kit first and whether he's a good pull if you don't have him, then whether his cons are worth it. But let's be real, 5-star cons are never worth going for. Oh. We'll cover one character at a time, so first, let's talk about Tartaglia, aka Child, aka 11th of the 11 Fatui Harbingers, aka Mr. Make Everyone Wet because that's what he does best. I'm talking about the enemies. Because yes, if you don't already know, Tartaglia is, in fact, a Hydro character. Hydro has always been one of the best elements in the game, and since the release of Dendro, it has been pretty much tied with Anemo for being the best element. Hydro's ability to enable and set up so many reactions has made it the foundation for most team archetypes, just like how water is the foundation of life in real life. Wait, this game is just like real life. Does that mean there's a real life Yoimiya somewhere? So good Hydro application would be popular in many teams, and our friend Tortellini here does just that. He does that a fuck ton actually. So let's look at teams where he's a good pick for the Hydro slot. First off, we got National, and then... oh, that's it. Problem with Tagliatelle that prevents him from filling the Hydro slot for most teams is that his large amount of Hydro application is tightly packed together into a 10-ish second window where he's on the field. And like a typical unfielder, once he switches out and his skill goes on cooldown, he just kinda does nothing. In contrast, most teams that need Hydro application need a consistent source of Hydro over an extended period of time, which is why Xingqiu and Yelan, both fast single target focused Hydro applicators with little downtime, are popular teammates for on-field vape carries and Hyper Bloom. Ayato has slower application, but he has AoE, also great for Bloom related teams. Kokomi has slow Hydro application with 100% uptime in AoE, making her great for freeze teams because they don't need fast Hydro, and also because you can't move the thing, so it's nice that enemies can't move either. Hydro Traveler is one of the Hydro characters of all time. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Taser teams. Whatever, they were basically just a downgrade from Hyper Bloom anyway, so Tortuga can only fit in national teams. But he doesn't just fit in, he fits in so well that this team dubbed International is one of the strongest teams in the entire game. Spiral Abyss, and some combat events. This team is hell to use in open world.
Oh my god, bro.
But why is it so strong? Well, first of all, Xiangling is there, obviously. Also the fact that you have two damage dealers working together with their uptime and downtime more or less in sync. Tartar Sauce also applies enough Hydro to ensure that your power-infused Kazuha burst won't yoink all the Hydro from Xiangling so she can still trigger vapes. Tortilla himself also has a nuke in his burst that he can trigger forward vape with for big damage. Cause, you know, he has pyro teammates. So yeah, while he and Xiangling are both damage dealers on their own, at the same time they also serve as supports for each other. Oh yeah, I guess I can also touch on his personal damage for a bit. It's okay. It's pretty good in AoE where his main damage source, the Riptide Slash's quadratic scaling, can shine. Just by looking at it, I can almost feel the power of Hydro coming inside, but it heavily falls off in single target. It doesn't really matter that much though, because in both situations, Xiangling will be the one doing most of the damage. Yeah, he's not enough to carry a whole team's damage, even when I forced him to be a hyper carry, you can check out that video here. So yeah, his best team and, well, only practical team is just National. Though I will say, his aesthetically best team will always be Taser, because it's the closest thing we'll ever get to using his delusion in gameplay. So should you pull for him? If you like speedrunning events and or destroying Spiral Abyss chambers fast, then yeah, he can be a good pull, but you do need to learn and consistently perform pretty strict rotations to play him optimally. So if you're into that, by all means go ahead. If you're a national team hater like me, yes, I hate national teams and this footage was a pain to collect, then you might want to skip him because literally any other Hydro character would do a better job than him in other teams. His cons are pretty bad. I know, that's rich coming from a Yoimiya main, but let's talk about them anyway. C1 decreases his skill cooldown, but it's more of a quality of life thing rather than a damage increase, so it can be comfortable to have, but doesn't make a practical difference. C2 gives him flat energy regen for every kill he gets. This doesn't really lower his ER requirements much. You're getting lots of particle drops in AoE situations, and in single target, this con is irrelevant. Also, Fav exists and is cheaper than getting a character to C2. Just saying. C3 levels up his skill talents, which may or may not be significant depending on your rotation and how long he spends in his melee stance. But considering that the previous two cons are pretty bad, just use your own judgment. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. Tartaglia C4 reminds me of Yoimiya C4, as in, why does this dogshit useless constellation even exist? But even worse. I mean, technically it's his best constellation as it gives him access to some off-field Hydro application which allows him to be played in Hyper Bloom and, you know, Hyper Bloom is the best team for a lot of characters because it's broken. In all seriousness though, in its main team, it has the potential of unwanted hydro application, which can ruin your forward vape setups, resulting in a DPS loss, unless it's a new wave of enemies with no Riptide mark on them. C5, burst damage increase. Pretty nice, but it's a C5. His C6 is easily one of the worst C6s in the game. Most of the time, his burst should be used in range stance, not melee, but with C6, all it does is allow him to stay in melee stance longer. For reasons that only Celestia knows, I guess. And it doesn't increase his damage at all in a normal rotation. If you have extra money to burn and want to spend on 5-star character cons, Tart is probably one of the worst ones to go for, but hey, it's still up to you. I think that's all for a comrade. So let's move on to the CEO of GEO. I'll be honest, I think Zhongli is one of the most overrated characters of all time, if not the most overrated character, mainly because of how much he's used versus how good he actually is. Don't get me wrong, he's not bad, but he's not good either. He's just balanced, but when you compare him to other characters with similar usage rates, you know, the actual good characters, then yeah, he's relatively bad. Compared to someone like Dia, yeah, he's really fucking good. I know usage rates don't always correlate to how good a character is. The reason why Zhongli is used so much is because he provides comfort. Comfort that you don't really need, and not much else. So what really makes him bad compared to other commonly used characters? Well, obviously one of the biggest things holding him back is his element. Pretty sure we all know that Geo is the single worst element in the game, but he can't be of another element since, you know, he's the Geo Archon. He kinda needs to use the Geo element to make any logical sense. But hey, that doesn't stop him from being a popular pick in many teams though, because in exchange for a team slot, he makes survivability a non-issue by having such a big ass shield that can stay up for 100% of the time, and does basically nothing else. He has no synergy with most teams because of his element, and he offers very little outside of his shield, so it's no wonder why he has the strongest shield in the game. He has nothing else to offer. So as opposed to someone like Kazuha who gets slotted into your team because of how smoothly he synergizes with it, Zhongli kinda just forces his way into your team by completely eliminating one of your worries. He's kinda like that kid in class that lets you copy off of his paper. Sure, it gives you an easy way through challenges, but it doesn't help you improve in the long run. It's why there are all these jokes about Zhongli players being unable to dodge, because sadly they're not just jokes, they're actually true. Bro casually takes up a team slot just to lower your team's damage potential and make you worse at the game. Oh yeah, against high damage content where his shield will fail, he just offers nothing at all. He does provide some good value to some specific teams, like teams where you want your on-field character to be able to keep attacking uninterrupted, like Ganyu, Yoimiya, and Linny, but they're still usable without him. Teams which don't have significant synergy with any elements, like Mono Anemo and Mono Geo, which is fine for lack of good options in general, which is why they're weaker at a baseline. And teams that are functional with 3 characters and Zhongli is just there to fill in a free space, like Double Hydro Hu Tao. But like, really? Hu Tao? Even with the strongest shield in the game, Zhongli doesn't have much value these days because we have characters, even 4-star ones who have shields that are almost as strong like Toma and Kirara, except these characters have actually functional elements that allow for synergy more than making up for the weaker shields. Oh right, there's also his burst. My bad. Yeah, he drops a meatball on his enemies. Pretty neat. I too love dropping my balls on people I don't like. However, the damage isn't really significant enough to justify its long animation. The petrification is nice, but real forms of crowd control do it better. Also, freeze teams exist. That's why some people just build Zhongli with full HP and ignore his burst completely. It's probably better anyway. Again, it's a situational, passable option for teams where he's a viable member. Same thing applies to his shield's Resh Red. So, should you pull for him? Personally, I don't recommend him, but if you often play the characters in the teams I mentioned previously, he might be a good pull for your account. His cons aren't enough to save him either, but hey, if you're gonna be spending money on the broke daddy regardless, he's still gonna be broke. I'll at least talk about what the money will be going into though. C1 lets him grow an extra Dong, which may or may not increase his damage depending on whether your team is at the limit of 3 Geo constructs. But if one pillar gets broken, there's a backup one that can keep generating particles for your team, so pretty okay. C2 gives you an actual reason to use his burst since it now has the effect of both his whole skill and his burst in not 2, but just 1, albeit still long, animation. And you can generate Dongs with the press skill instead, which has a shorter cooldown. C3, bigger shield, unnecessary, but you know, it won't hurt. Quite the opposite actually, but it will hurt your wallet. C4 gives him wide balls to drop on enemies and stuns them longer, combined with a C5 which increases burst damage in C2, it makes his burst finally worth using, I guess. His C6 is... It turns him into a mini healer to heal away the damage you didn't take if the shield did its job. If you're in situations where you will take damage regardless of his shield, just bring an actual healer in place of him. I guess we can touch on the weapon banner too. For the 5-star weapons, no. Just no. For Tartaglia, Polar Star got power crept by Aqua, but hey, at least that name fits him better. Pretty cool. He has good budget options too, like Stringless, Crescent, Iridescent Hunt, and if all else fails, you can always use Skittle for Felonies. Look, since most of the damage is coming from Xiangling anyway, you might as well generate extra particles for her. The Vortex Vanquisher offers a shit ton of attack and nothing else. I really can't recommend this weapon, especially for Zhongli, or any other weapon from the Golden Majesty series. There's a reason why the whole series has such a bad reputation. Trust me, I know from experience. I got the Summit Shaper once and I fed it into a 1-star sword because I hated it so much. Just use Black Tassel if you want to maximize his shield. Any damage polearm for damage, and for anything else, Favonius. Oh yeah, I guess I should touch on the 4-star characters and weapons of these banners. They're pretty eh. Alright, I guess that's all. Overall, these two characters aren't good pulls for most people, but not everyone is most people, so it all depends on you. I hope this video helps, and let me know if I helped you save your Primo Gems for upcoming Fontaine characters, especially that one Fontainian who deserves all of our Primo Gems, none other than Navia. What do YouTubers say again? Oh yeah, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I want to try to do more informative stuff like this, so stick around if you're into that. Follow me on Twitter, I refuse to call it X. Join my Discord server, please, we need more activity in there. And feel free to follow me on Twitch too, even though I'm inactive there. I recently also activated membership, so if you want to support the channel, you can click join. Though I'm still figuring out how it works. Thanks for watching and save for Navia!